All righty, we are live in YouTube. Good to be here. This is day 5 of our Discovering the Best of You training that we've been doing. And I know there's a lot of you that have registered, and you'll be getting those recordings emailed to you. So you can have them all there in easy reach and just replay them, download the workbook. I've been speaking with a few of you who are doing that each day, listening and doing the work. And that's where it begins. The change that you're seeking in yourself begins by doing that, asking questions, starting to think differently. Okay, and today is our very last training. Plug this in before it stops working. So very last training for this set of 5, and we will be back again with some more training in the not too distant future. So keep your eye out, and if you've registered for this one, you'll certainly be notified of our next one. Always looking at interesting topics, helping you to move closer, make decisions that are going to see you discover the best of yourself. Always. This life is for living. So day 5, I've named this Rock Solid. I like that. If you're going to build a life that you love, if you're going to discover the best of you, you want to do that on a foundation that's rock solid. Okay. And that's when I started my journey into this work, I had hit rock bottom, definitely. And I thought, you know what, there is something about life that I'm not quite getting. I was an intelligent human being, very intellectual, very organized, very disciplined. I would have thought I had most things going for me, but I just did not seem to be able to hang a life together that really lit me up, that really I felt joyful about. And so I needed to find out something that I obviously was unaware of. Now, we've been moving through this self-confidence formula, as I call it. And as I said, I first came across it in the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And I've edited it myself to include a few more thoughts and take out some words that didn't have a good vibe about them for me. So it's full of positive words, and it's a very powerful formula. So we're on point number 5, day 5, and the first part of this self-confidence formula, point number 5, says, I fully realize that wealth and position can only long endure when built upon truth and justice. So we're going to talk a bit about what truth and justice are tonight, the sort that we're talking about here. And it says, therefore, I ensure all my transactions benefit all whom they affect. So everything that I'm involved in, I'm ensuring that it benefits everybody that it affects. I am successful as I attract to myself the forces I wish to use and the cooperation of other people. So that's the first part of point number 5. It's a long point. So my first question to you is, do you feel like you're showing up authentically? And, that was, I guess, the beginning for me when I realized my life had fallen apart yet again. And I felt like I'd hit a wall. And I finally realized I have to live my life. So if I'm going to live my life, the very best life that I can, I have to know who I am. And I had no idea. I really had no idea. What did I like? What did I want to do? I felt like goodness, what have I been doing for nearly 50 years? I didn't know who I was. And if I'm going to live my best life, I better figure out who I am. And so I'm asking you, do you feel like you're showing up authentically? Because I typed into my Google search, living authentically, because I wanted to know what is there out there in the ether about living authentically. What am I missing? And up popped the most wonderful man who became my very personal mentor. And he'd been teaching this for 60 years. So that was good enough for me. I thought this man knows a thing or two, and it certainly resonated. So I want you to ask yourself, do I feel like I'm showing up authentically? And that's the first question on day 5 of your worksheet there. And that's a simple yes or no. Do you feel like you're showing up authentically? And if you do, you'll be feeling pretty comfortable, pretty joyful, in tune, in flow, all those words. It'll be just like, yeah, life is good. Life will still be like this. Life's an adventure, hilltops and valleys and everything in between. But do you feel like you're living your life? Do you feel like you're showing up authentically? What I'm building in my life can only long endure when it's built upon truth and justice, which is authenticity and the law. There's a law that governs my being and your being, same law, and the law that governs the universe that we live in. Now, if I'm not living in alignment with that, I'm going to come across some pretty hard times. And if I'm not living the truth of who I am, authentically me, then again, what am I building this life on? And so I want to ask you an honest question. Are you aware of how the law of attraction works? And I've listed that in your workbook. I'd never really heard of it in any real sense. I might have heard the term, but I'd never really looked into the law of attraction. I guess I thought it was a bit woo-woo. We're talking, some time ago. And as I started looking into this, I realized, okay, there is a law of attraction. There are many laws that govern the way that things happen in the universe. And the law of attraction is a secondary law, which is a subsidiary law of the law of vibration. So I started to understand, okay, everything is energy in this world that we live in. Now, there's information on this everywhere now. Years ago, there wasn't. But we know now that everything is energy and there is a law that governs the energy. And this law of attraction, this law of vibration, is one that we can understand and actually use. And that's not even the correct terminology. It's like, if I'm going to use this law, it means I'm actually going to understand it and live by it. A bit like the law of gravity. I understand the law of gravity enough to know that I can't jump off the roof and expect to float. I'm going to hit the ground. And so I live in line with that. And so if I'm living in line with the law of attraction, I'm going to start to understand that the vibe I'm in, the energy I'm in, the emotional state that I'm in, dictates how I will act and what I will attract. In the short form, that's it. And so when I start talking about transactions that are mine, so this self-confidence formula said, I ensure that all my transactions benefit all whom they affect. Why do I do that? All my transactions benefit all those whom they affect. And I'm successful because I'm attracting to myself the forces that I wish to use and the cooperation of other people. So there's a lot of attraction talk in there. Now, my transactions are how I speak and how I act, largely. Okay, they're the ones that are seen and unseen. But that's largely what I do when I transact. The same with you, our speaking and our acting. They are forces that will be causes, are causes, and they cause an effect. Now, love is the basis of everything. The very essence of me and you is love. That's the energy of it. That's the vibe of it. Now, every transaction that I'm involved in, I'm either acting from a place of love, which is very aligned to the essence of who I am and who you are, or I'm operating from the vibe of fear. So I was talking to someone today who had to go back and talk to somebody who wasn't treating them very well. And I was saying to this person, when you go back with your reply, with your action, with your transaction, make sure that you get yourself into a state of love. Now, I don't mean love for the person that's wronged them, there is a portion of that. But first and foremost, love for yourself. Okay. So if I'm in a state where I'm loving myself, that is a good state to be in. I'm in alignment. I'm looking after me, ensuring that I have all I need to be authentically me. And from that place, then I act. And yes, I'm not going to go out and attack people, but from a place of loving me, so self-respect, authenticity, knowing who I am, what's okay for me and what's not okay for me, from that place, I transact. And I always, for me, I look at other people, and no matter how they're behaving, if they're behaving badly, I realize that they're ignorant of the truth of who they are, what they're capable of, and what's coming out of them is normally, very much often, an indication of what's going on inside them. The day that I ranted at the ceiling about how awful my life was, that was coming out of me was the result of being very hurt, very troubled. And so the pus in me was coming out and being directed to infinite intelligence, God, all of the forces of life that I could muster in my mind, and blaming them. And so when people are acting badly, that's what I see. I don't so much see the bad behavior, but I see a state of being that is in a confused state, not aware of the truth of who they are. And that's just all of that coming out. So I don't take it personally. And so think about the basis that you're acting from, that you're transacting from. I've written here in your booklets, I am attracted by the state I'm predominantly in, by the state that I'm predominantly in. My state comes about, as we know now, from our thinking, which creates a feeling. Okay, when I create any picture in my mind as I'm thinking, that is going to give me a feeling. And if I do that long enough and accept that thought, get involved in it emotionally, I find myself in a certain state. If I'm thinking about going to visit my family and my grandchildren, I am in a state of joy. Like, the picture is good, the feeling is good, I'm in a state of joy. If I was thinking about something that didn't warm my heart, and in fact, was quite tragic, and I'm thinking pictures of that and getting involved in that emotionally, I will be in a state that's quite opposite to that. Might be a state of distress, anxiety. And so you can see how we become to be in a state, and we get to choose what that is. We do, no matter what's going on around us, as we said earlier in the week. So if I'm acting in a way that doesn't resonate with me, I'm not establishing a firm foundation for being my best self. If I'm acting in a way that you're like, I don't feel good, I don't like this behavior in me, it doesn't make me feel good, I'm not in alignment with who I really am. So it's not a firm foundation to build on. We really want to be aware of coming from a place that resonates with us. I wanted to live a life of authenticity, and it feels so good to do that. And all of us can do that when we start to change the way that we think, the thoughts that we are involved in. Now, I want to talk about our transactions, these transactions. Every transaction that I'm involved in, I want to know that it's good for all of the people that it affects, including me. I'd lived a life where I was under the assumption that my transactions were good for everybody out there that my actions affected, but they weren't often good for me. And that is a fallacy. You cannot be involved in a transaction that's not good for you, and yet it will be good for everyone else. I thought it was, but it can't be. Okay? Your best guide to your best life is to be authentically you. And when you align with who you are, all that results from that is also good for those around you. I was trying to make life good for other people, keep them happy. And by doing so, I often weakened them, because what was coming to them in their life is for them to grow them. And here I am intervening and trying to manipulate things to make it all okay for them. And it wasn't okay for me. So you can see what a mess we make of it quite quickly if we step out of alignment with ourselves. And to all of you beautiful mothers out there, I think we have to put our hand up and say, sometimes we are the worst offenders at this. Something in bygone ages has taught us, made us believe that we are to make everything right for everyone in our family and shoulder things that are just not ours to shoulder. And I would love to personally turn that around. We are here to support people, definitely, in their walk, especially our children. That's probably a whole nother training. But to help our children understand who they are, authentically them. And we do that best by being authentically us, funnily enough. And so let's talk about these transactions. They can be seen and unseen. The unseen transactions are things like our thoughts. They're unseen as thoughts. Our inner speech, our inner conversation, that little voice that you often have going at you. Your acceptance, your belief, the things that you're accepting and believing to be true. And your actions when no one's watching. I read a book as a young wife and mother about who are you when no one's watching. And man, it was a very arresting book. Like, am I being authentically me all the time, no matter who's observing me, even when no one's observing me? Is there a difference between how I show up? Sorry about the balloons. I don't know how to turn those off. I don't know what causes them. So your unseen transactions are those things: inner speech, acceptance, belief, actions when no one's watching, your thoughts. And then there's your seen transactions, which are things like the way you speak outwardly. People observe that. Acceptance of others, that is observed. Actions while being observed. So there's a lot of transactions that we have that are seen. And I would like to suggest to you that it is the unseen transactions that matter the most. Because the law of attraction, based on the law of vibration, dictates that the way you feel and what's going on in you internally, the vibe you're in, is what will attract to you. You can be seen to be doing all this good in the world, but if inside you are not coming from a place of love, I know a lot of people who are out there serving so many people, and the whole time they are begrudgingly doing it because they are wrung out, they need a day off, they need some time for themselves. And that energy they're in is limiting their capacity to actually do the good that they really want. And so I want you to really start thinking about your transactions, unseen especially, and then the seen will follow the unseen. If you take care of the transactions that are unseen, as in get into a good vibe, even when it's just you, really be conscious of what's going on in my emotional world here, in my inner conversation, in my thoughts. What am I emotionally involved in thinking about? When you take care of those transactions, the transactions that are seen will flow from that and be effective. That's such an effective, authentic way to live. Now, that will involve putting down some things that don't belong. When you go back to day one, and we're talking about what our purpose was or is, and what that looks like, really do a stock take. When I'm living the fullness of my heart's desire, I can see the things, the physical world I'm living in, and I can be me in that. Does that me, the best of me that's living that, does that have in it, grudges that I'm holding, unforgiveness? It's a very balloon day today. Unforgiveness that I might be holding onto. we cannot, even low self-esteem and unworthiness, I couldn't do that for me. I speak to women all the time who would love to do some work on themselves, but they wouldn't spend that much on themselves. But I know for a fact that you will spend that much on your children, even friends, other family. You're never number one in your to-do list and your to care about list. When you get the vision of you living your best life, there will be things that are missing from that vision that are now present in your current self. So really think about, are you hanging on to any garbage, unforgiveness, resentment, self-loathing, shame? We've got to tidy those things up. Take care of the unseen transactions that are going on, and the seen will take care of itself. And it's such a beautiful place to live, such a light place to live. It's like when one of the people I'm working with now, beautiful man, he's about to go and have a bit of a sea change. And he's going through a lot of the things that he's held on to all these years. And when you do that and you sort through the things that, yes, they have memories attached to them, and some are great, and others are sentimental, but perhaps they're not so light, those memories. It's like, let go of the past and embrace the future. There's so much future to be embraced. And we can't easily leap into our best self when we're still carrying all the past with us vibrationally. Set yourself free. Another beautiful woman I've been working with is just an absolute delight. When we first met, she would be the first to say she was so filled with shame and guilt. And it was, you could see it crushing her. And it didn't take long for her to offload that and understand why that was good for her. And then off she went. And what a light and delight this woman is today. All of us are. You are. The essence of you is love. That's the solid foundation to build on. And gratitude is so easy when you are expressing the love essence that you are. And when I give out gratitude for anything and everything that I can find, think about the law of attraction. If I'm in that vibe of love and gratitude and thankfulness and appreciation, I'm really feeling it, and I'm looking for things to feel that way about, what's going to be happening in the attraction world? This is the law, don't forget. So the law doesn't say, you know what, Di had a really ordinary week last week. Just because she's grateful today doesn't mean we're going to switcheroony everything. The law is impersonal. The law is the law. It operates the same for me, for you, for anybody. Doesn't matter who you are or where you are on this planet, the law of attraction works that way. Like attracts like. So as soon as I switch my vibe, and I was telling some clients this morning, I'd had a stage, I'd gone through a stage where I was feeling very heavy, the energy. Sometimes you feel that because you've been in the habit of living like that. And something might just trigger you. You're unaware of it and you find yourself feeling a certain way and you think, oh, I don't like that. And you can't identify a particular thought that may have started it. I just leave the room and I go and jump around a room and release the energy and shake it up a bit. I change the energy of my physical body to be different. And then that helps me to free up my thinking and to really, get those transactions going that I want. Not to sit in the feeling that's feeling heavy and stuck and like you're in the mud. It's very hard to rise above it. So you've got to jump out of that and then get your thinking aligned to the vision, to the purpose. It is really simple, but because we're not practiced in that way and we have a conditioning in us, in our subconscious mind, so we're not aware of it except by the results we see in our life, We think, man, there's something else driving these results that I'm not conscious of. And it's so unconscious, the way that we've been thinking and feeling. It's really got a momentum going. The work is to change that. And that's the essence of what I do with people. And I'm practicing it constantly myself because, like we were saying this morning with a group, it's like training. You know, I love running, bike riding, going to the gym. If I stop doing any of that for a length of time, those muscles start to atrophy. They're not strong. They're not so familiar with the work. It's the same with our mind muscle. If we're going to be the best and discover the best of ourselves, we must keep walking that best track. And that best track is one of love, coming from the very essence of who we are, and authenticity. Like, be you, fully you, authentically you. So think about your transactions, the seen and the unseen. And it says, I ensure all my transactions benefit all those whom they affect. And I had a conversation today where someone had been, treated badly. And it can be our conditioned response that we think, I just want to go back to them with what they've treated me with. It's like, no. Concentrate on who you are. If you're going to build a rock solid foundation for the best life, it's got to be built on authenticity and truth, like who you are. Don't let what's going on around you dictate how you're going to show up. Someone treats you badly. Do you really want to go and treat them badly? You definitely want to stand your ground and say, hey, this is me, with all self-respect and respect to them. You're a respectful person, so you act that way. You think that way about people. You feel that way, you act that way. That's a solid foundation to build your best life and discover your best self from. People will do what people do for their reasons. That's not your concern. Your concern is how you are showing up, how you're transacting, because you attract from that place. And when we understand that, and as my mentor made me very clear on, and yet I still am in the practice of it, because if I stop practicing, I stop growing. But I do know how it works. And so the practice of it only strengthens that understanding and the results that I'm getting. I could practice the other way, and I did for many years, and that strengthened the results I was getting in the negative way. Whatever we're doing, we're practicing something. So choose which one you're going to practice. So you're going to get in line with the law and the authenticity of who you are, or are you going to act as if you're ignorant and just, it's a bit of a mess. It's a bit of a messy way to live. I was astounded when I began this work, how quickly practicing it, as I was learning it, started to untangle my life, because no stone is left unturned. When you're studying you and living you authentically and the laws of the universe, every single area of your life will be affected. Every single area, because you are a part of every area of your life. And so as you change, everything changes. I love it. It's phenomenal. And so to build a solid foundation, my transactions must benefit all of those that are affected by them. And the last part of this self-confidence formula says, I induce others to serve me. Sounds selfish, but wait. I induce others to serve me because of my willingness to serve others. Again, this is the law. You know, some people you meet, you may have been one of them. I probably was one of them at one stage, where I thought, you know what, this person, I definitely was one of them at one stage. This person should be doing this for me. I sat back and said, you should be this for me. I want you over there to be this for me. I was demanding something of someone else, and yet I was very unaware of, was I providing that for them? Was I in that energy? Was that going out from me, that energy, that transaction? Or was I sitting back going, you know what? You should be doing this for me, you selfish person, you. Can you see the laughableness of that? And the law is not that way. If I want people serving me, I must be willing to serve other people. And not from a perspective of a trade, like I'll do this if you do that. Again, it's this love energy of just, I desire to serve other people. Now, hear me on this. Serving doesn't mean neglecting yourself and putting others before you and your well-being. It doesn't mean that. Serving means, yes, helping other people, but you can only give what you have. So you cannot be bereft self-care and love and respect and authenticity and give it to someone else. You cannot give what you don't have. And so I induce others to serve me because of my willingness to serve others. That's how it works. I am constantly developing more love for all of humanity because I know a positive attitude towards others will always contribute to my success. So I love this because it's love all around, really. I know that when I'm in a great vibe of looking for the good in others, appreciating others for where they're at, none of us are perfect. We're all a work in progress. When I appreciate others for where they're at, then I will get that same sort of energy coming back to me. Now, it might not be from the person that you're directly looking at. Everything's energy. It's not a trade, but it's a knowing, because I know how the law works. I can't give out all that good and have nothing come back. It's cause and effect. That's a law. And so I know my positive attitude will always contribute to my success. I know that a negative attitude will always contribute to my demise. That's the truth. And so knowing that, what do I choose? You know, I had it said to me once, would you go up to the edge of a highway where cars and trucks were zooming past and step out in front of a moving vehicle? No, not in my right mind, I wouldn't. However, many of us live, and maybe still living, have lived in the way where we send out bad energy and then complain when we get hit with like energy back in some form or another. It's ludicrous. It is like stepping out onto a highway, being hit by a truck and saying, what's going on here? If we choose to build a foundation of negativity and mistrust and unforgiveness, and, you know, we're just in an ick energy, and then we complain that our life isn't good. It's craziness when we understand the law. And so I cause others to believe in me because I believe in them and in myself. And that's a big stumbling block, I feel, for many of us. Not through any fault of your own. This is not, I'm not good enough. No. Like I said, we have inherited and had established in us a programming, a conditioning that is running at a rapid rate. It's got a momentum of its own. And until we, with our free choice of what we think, you know, the day I sat down, I started to look at this information and say, you know what? I am going to change who I am because I don't like me. I don't want to live the way that I'm living, and I want to reinvent the way I'm showing up. I want to be in charge of that. I want to decide how I want to show up. I don't want to be shy. I don't want to be insecure. I don't want to be full of doubt and self-loathing and shame and all of those things that I was feeling and trying to, put the royal icing over the top of. I didn't want that anymore. And so I sat down and I started to think about building from a rock solid foundation of truth and justice, which is the law. Truth, authenticity, understanding the law, showing up confidently and loving my life. And my goodness, It never stops. There is growth upon growth upon growth. The better it gets, the better it gets. And so on your homework page for day 5, I've said, love is the basis of everything. I'm coming either from a place of love or fear. That's it. So be very conscious of your transactions. Where is it coming from? And like I was saying to a gentleman today, if you're going to send an email, make a phone call, have an interaction, take part in a transaction, check yourself first. That alone is going to change the results you see in your life. If you're frustrated, angry, blaming, shaming, and you engage in a transaction, that energy is going to come back. So take care of this first. Clean this stuff up. And I ask myself, do my transactions benefit all whom they affect, including myself? Okay, note that. It's not just everyone out there, it's do they benefit me? And so I've given you some questions to consider, just 2. My inner conversations versus my outer conversations. Are they beneficial for all concerned? So when I open my mouth and say something outwardly that other people hear and receive, is that benefiting me and is it benefiting them? My inner conversations, which are much less judged by others, but think about this. As soon as you're conscious in the mornings, awake, what's the inner conversation? Who are you thinking about and what are you thinking about them? And a lot of the time, it'll be, what are you thinking about yourself? What's the conversation? Are you slapping yourself with, abuse and just criticism? Or are you building up yourself? Is your inner conversation benefiting you? Because I'll tell you, when you take care of that inner conversation about you and about others in your own inner conversation, your outer conversation will follow. So that's the place to tidy up and to be very conscious of. And do this lovingly. When you notice something that's gone unnoticed for a while, just be grateful for noticing it to start with. You don't have to go and build Rome in a day. You just notice and go, I see that. I'm observing that. I'm going to keep my eye on that because this is what I'd rather be thinking. When I'm living my best self, I am thinking this way. Be very deliberate. It won't take you long to start replacing that inner conversation. And then the second part, my actions, those seen and unseen. And that was a real challenge for me back in the day. Do my actions benefit myself and others? And of course, many of us are good at doing good actions when others are watching. But who are you when no one's watching? How do you behave when no one's watching? Because again, is that benefiting you? You might think it's not affecting others, but I know that the way we treat ourselves and the way we behave when no one's watching has an impact on us. And that impact will go out from you and will be reflected in the way that you then transact with other people because of the way you feel about yourself. So this all comes down, as it often does, to our own identity, our own self-image. And that is why I love the self-confidence formula. So review your actions and transactions, your inner and outer actions and conversations, knowing that you attract to yourself based on what you put out energetically. And when I say energetically, I mean vibrationally, I mean emotionally, what state you're in. I'm not talking about being happy clappy. I'm not talking about that. We have emotions of grief. We have emotions of, righteous anger, like, that has upset me. That only becomes a state when you dwell on it and allow your thinking to build on that, then you are starting to let it become a fixed state, becomes a mood, becomes a personality, and then you see it in your reality. So I'm not talking about emotions. They're like the weather. They come and they go. But what vibe are you in, as in what state? What's your predominant state of feeling? We want to shore that foundation up. So thinking about coming from a place of love, aligning with the very essence, the authentic essence of who you are, is one of love. And that's why it feels so good. If we're not coming from that state, we're coming from one of fear. And that doesn't feel good. And that's not in the essence of who you are. The life in you has no fear in it. It is love, pure love. And so that's where we want to connect. And gratitude and joy and abundance and power and harmony and peace, all of those things are personality traits of your inner essence. And so really just become aware now, after our sessions, on this is your best self. All of these things we've been talking about, and you can build a rock solid life for yourself, starting with yourself, who you are, what you want, what your purpose is, what's good for you and what's not good for you. Be authentically you. Set all of that up and then practice living that. That's the work. Now, that is the end of our training. I've so enjoyed meeting with you every day. And I really hope that you'll watch the recordings and do the work, do the questions, just a few. And then on Monday night, I've been saying it's the 1st, but it's not. It's the 24th, I believe. 24th, yes, Monday. So Monday night, the 24th, 5 p.m, I will be on Zoom. Now, I'm not going live into anywhere on that night. I'll just be on the Zoom. So if you've registered and you have this Zoom link, please join me at 5 p.m. that night for a Q&A, just an open discussion. It'll be cameras on, if you'd like to, and sound on, and we can just talk about anything that's come up for you in this training. We'll have a good hour together if you would like to do that, and I would love to see you. I'd love to meet with you and talk about what's come up for you, any questions, any comments, and yeah, really do a little bit more of a workshop around what we've been talking about. So that'll give you the weekend to go through the recordings and Monday, and then we'll meet together on Monday night on this Zoom link that you've got when you registered. All righty. So have a wonderful weekend. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you on Monday, 5 o'clock Adelaide time.